Welcome to Synchronicity. It feels like I haven't done one of these in a month, but it's only been a little over 7 days because we did an election special. And I know for many people, they're very they're very happy that Rhoda and I were not correct in our, well, it's not jump to conclusions, but Trump didn't win, right? So for anyone who thought that I or anyone else was a Trump fan on this podcast, no, it's cool. It's good. I'm glad people are happy. I'm not going to take any shots at the president-elect Joe Biden. In fact, I saw a TikTok where he was comforting some child who had lost a father, and the child had Down syndrome. And it was very touching, and it showed a human side of him I hadn't seen before. So I appreciate him too. And I'm glad that we can now all not have as big of a target to reflect our inner turmoil on Donald Trump. I mean, he's going to hang on for a little bit and be like, make an annoying scene. He's like kind of a crybaby. It's okay. It's no big deal. It's just his role. We're going to be able to move on, I hope, collectively into focusing on what's actually going on, which is that this reality is just your consciousness projected outwardly for real. So that's hopefully where we can reshift. We don't have to talk about that. That's cool. Do you think that's possible? I think it's possible. So for anyone who rode that wave of feelings related to Donald Trump or Joe Biden or anyone else, that was a ride. That was a roller coaster. We can move past that now. Ultimately, I got to the point where I just didn't give a shit. I was just like, whatever. It's not worth angering people about. You can make fun of it, but it's not worth it. So anyway, that's cool. Before we get started, there's going to be a lot of shit in this episode. May or may not have taken a microdose of mushrooms, which usually for me means I talk even faster than I normally do. So for the people listening to this on 1.5 or 2 speed, God bless you. Big shout out, by the way, to Ned. These guys, they keep coming out with the stuff. They got a magnesium fucking supplement I'm supposed to be mentioning. Go check out all the stuff that they have. Again, the code SYNC SYNC at checkout, 15% off. I'm just going to mention that now. There's a lot of new shit. They have this sleep aid thing. They have stuff for women, for the period stuff. You like how I say that? The period stuff? Sure. They also have this magnesium supplement, and it's really funny. Denise was talking about magnesium like a week before, and then they got in touch and were like, hey, we have this new product. So it's good. You need that. Get the stuff that you need in you. Use the code SYNC at checkout. SYNC, and of course, full spectrum hemp oil, CBD oil, all that shit. They got the goods. They're great. HelloNed.com, in case I didn't mention the website. Love those guys. Okay, that was mentioned. Bitcoin, gotta mention Bitcoin. Gotta mention crypto. Guys, I don't come on and mentioning Bitcoin to gloat and brag like you missed the boat. That would make me a dick. That's like me coming on, and I've been having to say this in readings recently, like where people are like, they have a really big thing that they want, or they're looking for, and it's like this big energy, and they're clearly like they're ready to transcend it. They're looking it in the face. And I was like, here's what you do. And sometimes people be like, yeah, of course, I get it. Thank you for the reminder. And sometimes people are like, I'm like, and I tell them, like, I would have to be such a piece of shit to talk about this stuff without the direct evidence that it works for me, and rule out all the conditional circumstances related to privilege or perceived privilege or all of these things. The people, well, you have that, you have that, you have that. You will always be able to trace back a bridge of incidents to how you got to where you are, but that's not the generative cause, right? That's the main thing. So you can always do this. So the Bitcoin stuff, the reason I bring it up is it's not too late. Literally had a friend buy, and it looked like the top, right? It's the top. Who wants to be buying around $15,000 for Bitcoin? It's not about that. It's about understanding that this is a space that changes the conceptions of money. It actually reveals what money is, which is just a symbolic token of exchange that we base on things that we want. It's just taken on, the symbol has taken on the actual, like, people think the essence is the symbol now, and that's why we value money. Money is like, the best use of money as I become familiar with it, regardless of its source, not regardless, but if you're generating it, even if you're borrowing it, whatever, is to circulate it. You don't want to be housing and storing and saving. Like, you can, it's fine. You can have a surplus. You can do whatever you want to feel like. But when you're moving it around, that's an energy that's moving. It's like a circulatory system. And that's also how it works on a macro scale too, with how the government prints and reduces money. With fiat currencies, Anyway, long story short, just buy some fucking Bitcoin. Jesus Christ. It's not that complicated. If you don't know what you're doing, join the Discord server. Shameless plug for the Patreon. It's the best investment. I wish to God, when 2013, when I was about to go on Mount Gox, probably get scammed, I wish there was someone who was like, this is what you do. I had to piece it together. Luckily, navigated the minefield. And now there's tons of people like that. I've been doing it for a decade plus. And then even it just takes a little bit to learn. It's not hard. So do that. Just get some. It'll feel better. I don't know. Like if you're listening to this, like it's certainly a good thing for you. And if you lose money, like if you put it in and it drops 50%, buy more. It's like really fucking simple. Don't invest any money. You can't afford to lose, right? I don't even mean to say this isn't financial advice. You're listening to someone on our podcast talk about Bitcoin. Well, this is not financial advice. Of course it's not. Of course it is. Whatever. I did it. It's great. You're going to love it. Okay. That was the obligatory Bitcoin stuff. I know people hate that. I'm just trying to get that out of the way. And now we're going to go into this episode. And honestly, I have a lot of stuff prepared via my tweets that I wrote down. And I have a lot of stuff that I think is just going to come off the cuff. Big time energy going on, right? I mean, I know there will be an episode where it's like, hey, it's been chill. It's been calm. You enjoying that? Look forward to those moments in the podcast and sequences of events where it's like, hey, everything is great objectively. We'll get there. But subjectively, I feel like still people are getting bounced around. Worlds are changing. It doesn't cost you anything to enjoy a certain experience, even if it's one that's not classically pleasurable. Like, let's say some just fucked up shit. This is fucked up shit that I'm dealing with. It's just objectively, it's just like a fucking, that's annoying. And man, you got to find a way to like shift in where it becomes part of the narrative of the story of like this, not even just being a lesson, but like an enjoyable spectrum. Like, wow, like kind of like watching like a soap opera is the best way I could say it. Just this like kind of like suspended disbelief and amazement. And if you recognize things always do work out, right? And that freaks people some out inherently because either it means that you were giving up some level of control, or we maybe don't have that control. It brings up a lot of different issues for people. But if you just generally believe that things work out, you can take that confidence and belief when you're going through things that seem like maybe they're not going to work out. And that's really important. Also, the cost of enjoying something, like there is a cost. I said there's no cost, but there is a cost. You basically, the version of you that wasn't enjoying it has to go bye-bye. You got to kick them out. You got to be like, you can't be here anymore. Sorry, buddy. It's just not allowed. And it's fine. You don't have to be a dick about it. You know, maybe they're just not a person you want to have in your house right then. There's nothing, that's your decision. And it's always your decision to allow states of consciousness into your dwelling, right? Thoughts are angels. You're supposed to welcome them. You welcome them. Like when you have a passing fancy and thought, if it's one you would like to invite into your being, you say, oh, great. You feel what that would feel like, even if it's a fanciful, fantastical thing. And I think this is important just as like a thought exercise if we want to drill it down to like some basic dorkball level. But like for real, like if you can feel the feeling of whatever it is you want having been accomplished and just accept it and welcome it, no matter how fantastical the thing is, you can rest assured that that's what will be outpictured in your reality. It's just how it works. It's not like one thing. And that also means the relative bigness or smallness of whatever energy or situation or anything you're working through is also just a construct. That's really important. That has a double-edged sword, though. That means anything can be achieved in an instant. That means you can ascend to the level of your ideal instantly, or you can descend to the level of, what you don't want instantly. Now, that doesn't have to be, if you're someone who's very capable, and I'll talk about this a little bit, I think people have different skill levels or different tendencies related to sensing energy, which is just probably going to be a continuing theme in this podcast. You heard a little bit about with the median stuff with Rodin, but if you're sensitive to energy, the awareness that you can jump from any state of consciousness to another is, of course, liberating on one way but it can also be terrifying. You're like, if I think about something bad, is that going to create it? Mainly no, but also yes, is the way I would say that. If you dwell in that state and believe both consciously and subconsciously that you are destined to experience this, yeah, it's going to be outpictured in your reality and you're going to experience it. But if you recognize that, like, hey, maybe this is something I would rather not want, it's giving you an opportunity to like go into it, accept it, deal with it as an aspect or a timeline, however, a fractured aspect of your essence, of God's essence, whatever you want to call it, that exists, but you can take your attention away from it and place it on something that maybe seems a little more desirable. Not knowing you have that ability is going to make that pretty hard to do. So that's why that's step one, is just like looking at introspectively the creative mechanism, your imagination, God, whatever you want to call it, your imagination. That's the creative force, right? Here's a Neville Goddard thing. We're just going through the timeline on Twitter. First of all, it says always good timing, which is true. Can you believe that you always have perfect timing? You will start to see external validation of that. You get there at the perfect time. This thing happened at the perfect time. Believe that you and everyone around you has perfect timing. A, it's a fact because you're doing this. B, when you accept it, I find it to be fun. It also means when crazy shit happens to you, that's perfect too. Perfect timing, perfect plot twist. It's cool. Neville Goddard thing here. If you have a goal, although it is unseen, it already exists. Your normal mortal eye cannot see it, but by rearranging the structure of your mind, you can see it clearly. Everything exists. This is something I think I've mentioned infinite times at this point. Everything exists already. We don't create it. We access it. We remember it. We construct it imaginally. What seems like constructing it is just accessing it. And acceptance of it as a creative principle summons it forth into reality. Now, compared to willpower, this shit is like, willpower is like patootie tootie. It's like, I don't know what that means. It's small. It doesn't work. Patootie tootie. Cool. That's got to be the mushrooms. The willpower to do something certainly has some impact, but it's like a shadow of what the full imaginal acceptance of the feeling ultimately creates. This is kind of the comparison of when Jung and Freud were like discovering the subconscious, the unconscious, describing it as like an iceberg that you can see the tip of above the water and be like, wow, that's pretty big. But then when you look underneath, it's like, holy shit, that thing is fucking huge. That's kind of how this stuff works. So like your eyes here, they can't see the thing. If you say, I got $10 million in my bank account right now, and you look and you log in, look on your app, whatever, the phone, the computer, no siree, Bob, eyes can't see it, right? I guess if you take enough drugs, maybe. But like you can't see it really with your eyes. But if you see it internally and recognize that's real, that's really an important thing. That's real. Then you can wait for the evidence to show enough show up. Okay. Have you realized how lucky you are yet? Very lucky. Very lucky. Not just to have human form and consciousness, but to be aware that this is a thing that is a fortunate thing that you've done for yourself. That's very lucky. Lucky also isn't a real thing. You make your own luck, but also very lucky. Like you did it. You're great. You fucking did it. Accept that. Kanye. Wow. This was before the election. So we're going to get through some tweets. I don't think I have any political tweets that we'll get through, but it's been a couple weeks here. Have you realized you deserve everything yet? Everything? Everything. Everything on the spectrum. That could be bad stuff too. You deserve it. It could be neutral stuff. You deserve it. It could be great stuff. You deserve it. You deserve all of it. Tune into what you would actually like to experience is what I recommend. States of joy, contentment, fulfillment, abundance, fun things, cool things. And don't freak out if you don't get that experience right away. That's a test. You're testing yourself. That person who you are, who hasn't totally accepted that you're now a different person, who has those things, is going to test you. They don't want to go away. It's like we spoke about this early on. It's like killing a version of yourself. It's not like it is. How would you react? Think of a version of you that doesn't know that it's good for it to go away from your conscious awareness. Just think about how that version of you would react if you're like, you got to go away. If they thought they were essential for your core mode of being, they'd probably freak out. And what do you think you do when you're about to cross that threshold? You probably freak out. Now, your reaction and how big the freakouts are totally up to you. And I find it very satisfying to transcend and work through things that used to completely own me. It's fun. It's nice. I get it. You don't want to like, don't let it ruin your shit or people's shit around you. Like, understand that. If that's the narrative you're running, just be sure that you want it. You don't have to be like a total agent of chaos, but in some ways you do. In some ways you do. You do need to like chaotically, sacred destruction energy implode the aspects of your being that you're sure you're like, I think I'm done with this. Okay. Neville Goddard. Never entertain an undesirable feeling, nor think sympathetically about wrong in any shape or form. Do not dwell on the imperfection of yourself or others. To do so is to impress the subconscious with these limitations. Okay. This is why I like Neville Goddard. He starts with a never, which is like manifestation 101. Don't say never because it's going to create the thing. But this motherfucker's like, I don't give a shit. I know how this works. Never entertain an undesirable feeling, nor think sympathetically about wrong in any shape or form. I mean, he's just basically telling you to just like, don't do it. It's not worth it. You will do it until you realize that you shouldn't do it. That's what most people want. Most people don't want to be just told something and be like, I'm going to do that because it sounds good. You may test it, but you will ultimately meet the limitation of your true belief in that because you want to know it for yourself for sure. It's not satisfying to like just do something else that someone else told you to do. You can give credit, you can honor the lineage, the tradition, whatever it is, sure. But like you did it. Understand that. But anyway, back to Neville Goddard telling us what to do. He's saying, do not dwell on the imperfection of yourself or others. To do so is to impress the subconscious with these limitations. Just don't dwell in there. That's basically what he's saying. It's okay to acknowledge, to aware, just not entertain, right? There's language here that suggests like you're in a home. You can accept what you want into that home. You can live in a certain home. If the home is a shithole and you don't like living in shitholes, move out of a shithole. That's easy. Be like, you know what? I'd rather not live in a shithole. I don't have anywhere else to go. This is the only shithole. Well, you know how to use your imagination. Dwell there first for a couple. Sleep in the shithole physically for 3 days and then dwell somewhere else. See what starts to happen. I don't know how to clearly say it. I don't even like to talk about the stuff that I do and that have happened for me. I will. This is why we talk about more on the Patreon because it just sounds like fucking nonsense, like unachievable shit. Fucking international travel during a pandemic. Fucking, it's crazy. Anyway, I am not speaking. Here's another Neville Goddard. I am not speaking about some little magical thing where you can wave a wand and your desire will suddenly appear. This law is based upon a principle. If you want something, you can have it, but you must be willing to give up what you are now in order to be what you want to be. Right. There's the exchange. You need to give up the limitation, the limited version of yourself that you're tuning into currently. If you're doing that, we all tend to do that for the express purpose of recognizing we can let that go and give it up. That's why we do it. So let's just talk about that. But that's a law. It's a principle that you have it, but you have to accept that you have it. And this consciously pings us so wrong. It's like looking at something that's red and someone is saying it's blue. And you're like, I'm sorry. I can't acknowledge that it's blue. And then maybe it starts to turn a different color. And you're like, oh shit, it's starting to look a little blue, but I just can't. You can't let it in your reality that the color could change. And no one is changing the color but you. So it's not like someone else is telling you this is what the color. It's you internally being like, all right, it's blue now. Can I live in a world where it's blue? Can I see it as blue in my imagination? Is it blue? Okay, I'm going to accept that. Let's see what happens in reality. Sure enough, you'll probably see a different color the next day. And it'll be a different thing. It doesn't have to shake your reality to its fucking core physically. It is pretty apocalyptic psychologically. It's cool. It's fine. It's a good time to do it. I like Jess's, I think she's right. Like the people who had the awareness for the past like 20 plus years, probably longer, that like this shit is totally nutso. Like, and this is just how reality works. Those people were kind of dumbasses. It would be way better now to recognize it. Now everyone's recognizing you're not so crazy. Now everyone's like, yeah, okay, that seems right. Back then it was like, you're insane. And granted, to stabilize your conviction and belief and communicate that clearly, we didn't choose that timeline. It's a lesson in and of itself. Cool. Have you realized you eternally move through this world with peace and grace yet? That's a good one. Peace and grace. Peace and grace. Peace and grace. That's a good one. Just try to tune into those two energies. You can call them angels. You can call them benevolent beings, energy vortices. Call them whatever you want. They are spaces and energies that you can dwell in. Peace and grace. Your movements in life will then reflect those out into the world. And people will be like, imagine yourself graceful. That's all. Imagine yourself graceful and peaceful. I don't think you can go wrong with those two things. Is there ever a situation you don't want to be peaceful and graceful? You could be like, well, if I need to go to fight, protect my shit, you can be peaceful and fight. You can be a peaceful warrior. There's no contradiction there. Do you ever not want to be graceful? You just want to be you can be a fucking sloppy, doppy, doofy mess and still be graceful. How about that? So I think peace and grace, you can accept those. Something about the full moon, totally Neville Goddard stuff. Be perfectly indifferent to the evidence of the senses so that you may feel the naturalness of your desire and your desire will be realized. This is another invitation to just be like, yo, senses, chill out, bro. Take it easy, man. You don't need to get involved here. You don't need to like let them influence your reality until you are ready to experience the harmony and synchronicity that comes with that. That's what synchronicity is, by the way. It's a perfect locking up of your inside and outside. And you're like, what? That's cool. I love my life so much. That's not me bragging. That's a mentality and a mantra that if you can truly embody it, it's good times. I recognize we feel that when things tend to be going well, but if you can remember it going well objectively, if you can remember it in all times, see what happens. Once again, this is just a regular tweet. I was talking about the Dolphins. Mentioned that on the last live stream. Oh gosh, reality guys, sorry. We've lost that fucking constant that they have in Inception, the top that spins to know that you're not in just a dream. It's gone now. We lost the top. The Dolphins are good. It's time to admit it. For those who don't want to admit it, that's okay. You haven't been watching the games. I don't blame you. They're Dolphins games. No one watches them except Dolphins fans, and there's not a lot of us at this point because football is insane. And why are people watching it? And why is it going on during a pandemic? But there are those of us who still watch it and give a shit, and the Dolphins are good now. So basically, we're fucked. You're on your own. Reality is now shifted past. We're in the realm where the Dolphins are good. This is uncharted territory over the past 30 years. I've been a Dolphins fan long enough to know that this is true. They've had flashes of being not bad, but they're good now. That's a fact, Jack. Book it. Sorry, reality is forever changed. We lost our constant. I don't know where we are right now, but it's pretty cool. All right. Don't curb your passions, but cultivate your virtues. Don't curb a natural desire that you have. This doesn't mean just go around like jacking off everywhere. I like that's what I think, right? Shows you a lot about my mind that's where I would go to. This doesn't mean just like go express literally every single passion you have constantly. It just means don't hold them back. Don't stamp those out as things that are going to grow and fruit and blossom into things. Cultivate your virtues in tandem with that, right? Also cultivate the things that you would like to be, that you are. Grace, peace. We spoke about them. Grace, peace. It sounds like it's a person or something. Anyway, it's a cool thing to do to just cultivate the things you would like to emanate and be, and then also acknowledge what you're passionate about. That's what people are figuring out. It's okay. I'm figuring it out too. I don't want to make it seem. Oh, I didn't even fucking mention it. It's on Spotify. It's on iTunes. The album, the EP, the single. It's really a single, double side. Shout out to Dead People in 12 is out on all the streaming platforms. I'll put a link in on this podcast episode so people can download that. So you can listen. A lot of other music stuff coming out. I'm pretty excited about. It's going to be great. Local Fry. Hold fast to love in your imagination and you ascend to the level of your ideal. Love I know it's kind of annoying because love can be like overused and used as a spiritual bypass and really just kind of be a band-aid, but it is the proper energetic resonance strategy to use. Wow, that sounds a super dorky way of making something very powerful and profound sound not cool, but it is something you can do. You know what the feeling of loving something is. Doesn't even have to be a person. It could just be you love that. Transpose that, take that, and apply it to a version of yourself, something you haven't experienced yet in reality, whatever you want to call it, or whatever it is. Transpose that falling in love with the version of you that already has it. You become that person. That's the good way to do it. Life is the offspring of love, right? This sounds like a fucking pro-life thing. It is, though. And what I mean by life isn't just the physical birth of life. It's your experience of life widens and broadens the more you love yourself and life. God, that sounds so hokey. It's true, though, and I know you know what I'm talking about. When you are in those states, you are more accurately seeing what is going on as opposed to when you have constrained it to a filter. It's not a judgment on filtering your reality. And focus is a wonderful thing. But when you broaden it, you find you can usually accommodate that broadened and heightened perspective with action as well. So they're not counted. It's only you have to sit there and do nothing. The only civil war you should be concerned about is the one going on inside of you. Surprisingly caught some flack for this one on Twitter because I guess people thought like, we're not going into civil. Do I really need to say this to people? I understand crazy shit happens all over the world. People are not going into civil war right now. Maybe at some point in the future. It's like we're not even close. People are going to McDonald's because they don't want to upset the basic shit that's going on in the world. Like it's fun to talk about. Maybe it's how we off gas some fears about our own internal shit, but like, we're good. Don't worry about that. Worry about the civil war going on inside of you. Where are you battling your demons, your doubts, your anxieties, your fears? Where are those going on? What do you need to transcend your conception of yourself so you feel like a balanced and whole person, independent of anything else going on inside of you? Those are the civil wars we need to be worrying about. Sorry if that seems kind of like putting your head in the sand. It's not. It's the only thing any one person can do to affect change in their perception of the outer world. So do that. Don't get riled up about some... Also, like whenever someone thinks about civil war, I just want to show you like what's actually happening. Why do we have bad things in the world? Why do we expect? Here's what's happening. Someone who's concerned about civil war because they watched something or they heard something or whatever it is, they imagine someone in their head. They're doing this. They do it, whether they catch it or not. They construct a person, a personality, energy. Well, this person's going to get a bunch of guns and they're going to be upset about this and then they're going to do that and that's going to lead to that. You just imagined it. Thank God there are enough other people out there who are like, that's not going to happen, for that to not like regularly happen. I understand it's just your fears running amok. Catch yourself doing something like that in any situation in your life, road rage, whatever the fuck it is, anything. Just dial it back. And just be like, whoa, what is going on here? That I think that this is what's going on. Now, you could be like, well, this is what people thought in Nazi Germany before the Jew. You know what? People have been screaming about Nazism and authoritarian regimes since Trump was elected. I'm sorry. It hasn't happened. Were there inroads made there? If you want to look at it like that, sure. It's been going on well before Trump. It's not about that. But that is also an external projection of an internal lack of security and confidence in you shaping your reality. You can say that's dumb and naive, and until you end up in fucking, concentration. Okay. I understand that was an experience that a lot of incarnated souls went through as human beings in our timeline, for sure. Not denying any of that. Is that your experience so far? Is that something you would desire to experience? Do you want a civil war? You can just like, there's the George Carlin thing. Like some people, like they like when there's natural disasters. There's excitement to them. You can see it from both perspectives, but most people don't want that. Truthfully. Oh, here's you want a snarky political tweet? I got a lot of likes too. Don't take this the wrong way, please. I understand this is not really how you're viewing it if you're a Joe Biden fan, but I wrote, it's cool that if Joe Biden wins, everything is good again and all bad things end. That's so cool. Just because I love when politicians, like, they run against like whatever's been going on. They're like, I'm going to handle this better and that and this and that. Oh, that thing that they fucked up, I'm going to do it. And like, what happens at the end of most of these things? Maybe they do like one or two things, if that. Really nothing changes. It's just funny to me. There's no good again. It's not getting to normal. Maybe we just don't have to talk about a character so much. Whatever. Oh gosh. Should I say this one? Ugh, it's like poking the bear at this point. I tweeted it. I have to say it out loud. It's what I felt at the time. It's cool that Trump is the only bad thing in your life and isn't merely a reflection of your own inner turmoil and discontent, and the only thing allows you to be triggered by his energy is your own inability to honestly face and transcend your demons. That one makes people mad. Of course he's a shithead and a schmuck. Look how he's acting right now. But do you get bothered by it? Because if you do, then you think you're a shithead and a schmuck and you demonstrate that behavior. If you don't, and you can still recognize it, you're good. You're good to go. You're going to feel a lot better about a lot of things in life. But if it is totally just like, this motherfucker, and I know we have these people and we all have our Trumps in our lives, but just please recognize them as just an energy inside of yourself that if you're engaging with will be reflected back. You can let it go. Enough of us did that Trump is gone because we didn't want that energy, and that's great. And we didn't care. Even if he was back, you don't have to tune into this motherfucker from all different walks of life. I will totally say that. It's important to vote. Oh, Jesus, God. Okay. On election day, I did tweet out 3 tweets. I'm sorry. I got sucked in. Can we just acknowledge that sometimes it's fun to get sucked into like cultural and political stuff? It's fun sometimes, but just don't take it too seriously. So I got sucked in on election day. I watched about 10 minutes initially, and then was paying attention to the betting odds. Just the punditry is very annoying, but like, what a spectacle, huh? It's almost like they did this stuff in advance. And I'm not even conspiracy story stuff. Conspiracy theory. Just think, there's better things for us to look at, but it is fun sometimes. So if you like it, I did 3 tweets. There you go. Disprove that God is your imagination. I dare you. Just disprove it. Just go ahead and do that. It's not just an allegory. These characters in all holy scriptures are not just representations and personifications of psychological states that you move through, ultimately culminating in the realization that you are everything. Disprove that. Go ahead. Give you $20. The only privilege that exists is the privilege of realizing that your imagination creates reality, what you perceive as external reality. Fortunately, everyone has this privilege. Test it out and see what happens. I know objectively everyone does not have the same privilege. I'd have to be a piece of shit to think that. Objectively, subjectively, we all possess the same ability, the same creative power, regardless of what form we've chosen. Test it out before you get mad at that. If it's not working, not try harder, recognize where you gave up. Where did you stop believing that this is how things work? It was somewhere. It's the only way for you not to consciously perceive that this is how everything works all of the time. It doesn't just work when we want it to. It's working all the time. You are constantly getting back the exact reflection of what you internally believe. The collective sum of all of those things, all of those beliefs, that's what's getting fed to you constantly, forever. It doesn't stop. But your awareness of recognizing that you have a kind of a joystick there to modulate that experience, that's pretty fucking cool. That's a privilege. That's the only privilege that you are. Transcend. If you find yourself in a situation where you lack, let's say you're not me. Let's say you're not a straight white male, from a middle class background with Just say you're not doing none of those things. Okay. And you're in a shitty situation. Test this shit out. You're going to be more effective as a teacher when you come and tell me or anyone else, holy motherfucking shit. What the fuck? It's like, why do we put ourselves through challenging situations in life? To be like, holy fucking shit, it works there? Whoa. Cool. So, just saying. Yeah. Going up. Here's a Neville Goddard. You do not have to open doors to get into any room. You simply enter by assuming you are in it. Look at the world from it and feel what you want to feel, and the room has been penetrated. Oh, Neville. Now remain there until you feel relief. Whoa, is he talking about fucking? Maybe Neville Goddard. He's just talking about having sex the whole time. I could believe it. Basically, you don't have to open any door. You don't have to unlock anything. You just imagine you're in the room you want to be in. From that perspective, that's how you travel there. You ever lost your body? You go to sleep at night? That's how you do stuff. You don't open this door. We get the key. You're in the room. You're there. Boom. How'd you end up there? You imagined yourself to be. That's where you are. You've penetrated it, as Neville Goddard put it. Neville, you rascal. Bitcoin stuff, won't mention it. Just already said it. Fall in love with it all. Fall in love with it all. Isn't that nice? It's just a nice way to be. Doesn't mean being a pussy in a negative. Is that a term or should? Whatever. It doesn't mean being a chump. Whatever term you want to use. Push over. There we go. Doesn't mean you're doing that. You just fall in love with everything. And guess what happens? You get very lovely experiences, typically. Try to embody that state as much as possible, as it serves you. I wrote it's a good idea to dance today on November 5th, so I assume it was a good day to dance that day. Today, yeah, pretty good day to dance. Yeah, it's always a good day, but that day felt particularly good. Accept that which is lovely into your world. Okay, cool. Love, balance, expansion. That's the formula we seem to be in the middle of right now. That's the formula for the energy we seem, it's like solving the equation. Love, balance, expansion. Love, balance, expansion. You fall in love with something, you calibrate towards it, you expand. Rinse and repeat. Rinse and repeat. That's what we're doing. Very Scorpio energy, by the way. It's kind of like a washing machine, kind of like rebirth, kind of like death. It's good stuff. Good stuff. Mushrooms are good. Just wrote that as a tweet. A lot of positive feedback. Go figure on that one. Bardo states, you got to love them. We're also totally in a Bardo state. This is a state after life, before rebirth. After death, before rebirth. It's cool. We're there. We're chilling. Very limbo-y. We're like, what is this? What's going on? What was that? Huh? How does this work? That's cool. That's just the energy. It's great. Have a good time. It's going to be cool. It's a wonderful state to do imaginal acts. It's probably why I've been mentioning it so much recently. So great. Yeah, I spoke about the dolphins. Holy shit, that was nuts. Yeah, it's 11/11. Oh, am I releasing a podcast on 11/11? That's cool. That's cool. All right, I guess that's all I had to say. How long was this? I'm fucking really nailing these 40-minute podcasts. It feels like the right vibe. If I had more to say, I'd probably want to say it, right? Is there anything else people are going through? I know it can be weird out there, but be the self-generative, awesome star that you are. Like, I know it sounds like pep talky and like motivational speaker-ish, but it is just a fundamental truth that you are the generative cause of your life. Apply that knowledge and wisdom and principle to things you really give a shit about in your life. Who do you want to be? Find that person, fall in love with that person. And then you are that person. Accept that as the operative mechanism of how this works. It's the meta programming you need to then start modulating other aspects of reality. That's all. That's all it is. It's no big deal. It's just hacking the fucking existence of your reality. No biggie. But it is ultimately like that's the energy we're in right now. There will be time for creative expansion and having fun predominantly we're in that too. You should be having fun. You should be creatively expanding, but don't like give yourself the time and space to do what you need to do. And if that means just like resting and calibrating and accommodating to what's going on, that's cool. That's cool. You don't have to be doing anything. If you want to be doing something, then imagine that you have done it. Accept it, and then you will start doing the things that need to get there. And that if means tomorrow, the next day, you don't immediately start doing the thing, you don't have to worry about it. You're already on the track. Whatever you do will lead you there. Also recognize most things that people think will take them a very long period of time, they're wrong about. And if it does take them that specific amount of time, it's because that's exactly what they believed. Loosen your conception of how time works. We spoke about that with me and Rodin in the last episode. Time is folding in on itself. It's a construct. It's cool. It still exists here. We experience it as existing, but use that to your advantage when it suits you. Accept everything as kind of an infinite spectrum of possibility. It all exists. Accept the things you like into your life, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. And it means if you experience something consciously that you react to and it's not great, you don't like it, it's something for you to look at and understand. Maybe you have a higher perspective on it later and you'll be like, wow, I'm really glad I went through that. While you're going through, you don't feel like that. But if you calibrate and recognize your baseline is always having the perspective that things work out, they do. And it's okay if you don't have that as a constant, stabilized perspective. It just needs, it doesn't need to be. It helps if that's your predominant conviction and belief. That's why this manifestation shit, you tend to focus on the symbols of the things, the thing that will give you the feeling rather than we start from the end. You feel the feeling. And then even if it's not the exact thing you wanted, it could totally be. It makes you feel the way you want it to feel. So who gives a shit? Really? Do you want to feel like that? Was that the important thing to you? It probably isn't the specific thing that you've consciously devised. It can be. That's where like really good visions and prophets who can like nail stuff, also based on their ability to move towards and in and within the timelines where they're validated as their conviction and belief is actually pictured out in the world. That's how that works for people who have like a high hit rate on that. It's their conviction and belief that they know what they're doing. And it doesn't mean it's not real. It doesn't mean it's real. It's just that's how everything works. And whatever tools and modalities help you realize that, that's what you're supposed to do. That's why most people who are talking about this shit tend to be like, you don't have to listen to me. You don't have to listen to anyone else. There's a lot of shit out there. Find what resonates with you, because that's the best thing you can do. And sometimes you have to create that thing. That's totally cool too. There's a lot of people out there being asked to create new things that don't exist, that they don't see in the world. That's imagination at its finest. It's wonderful. It's a great thing. Okay, well, this has been great. What an episode. I got to get back to life shit. There's stuff going on. I feel like it's a lot of cleaning up of energy too, like putting things in order, getting things ready to go. Like there's a lot of that. So just like, it's cool. We're good. We're having a good time. Do the things you're supposed to do. You're doing great. Just recognize that you're doing great every day when you're going to sleep, every night, whenever it is. Just imagine the feeling. It's not affirmations, by the way. It's not like I am this. It's not stubbornly using your willpower to do it. It's just feeling the feeling of how it feels to live your perfect life. As you go to sleep each night, you necessarily restructure reality to feed you that in the future. It's time travel. It's no big deal. It's cool. All right. That's it. Until next week. Oh, the Patreon, all that. You guys, it's there. There's a lot of stuff. Tiers, things. It's great. We're having a good time. Until next week, happy imagining.